please join me in welcoming Boyd Cohen, the CEO of lomob. Boyd, the screen is yours.
Thanks. I wish it was a floor and we were back together, but in London or somewhere else. But here we go. So lomob stands for the Internet of Mobility. What we enable, any vehicle, any app, anywhere. All of us have experience traveling or living in cities where there's dozens or maybe even 100 different apps. Every day there's new services coming to our cities, whether it's ride hailing or bike sharing or scooter sharing, new taxi services, and new services we didn't project yet or didn't know were coming, like flying air taxis for all we know. So there's a growing diversity and fragmentation of the transportation industry, creating a lot of opportunity for customers for having choice, but making it very complicated to figure out how to go from A to B. What we do at lomob is we leverage our proprietary algorithms, which allow a customer to say, I want to go from A to B, and we give them all the best ways to go from A to B with all the different services that are connected to us. And we deeply connect them to us. What does that mean? That the user can seamlessly discover, route, book, unlock, and pay for a scooter, a car share, a taxi, inside our enterprise clients' applications. So our clients, we don't go B2C with this. Our clients are enterprise transportation and travel companies in airlines, whether they're hotel chains or rail operators. And we have a growing number of increasingly interesting and diverse industries that are also looking at adding mobility to for their user base or their own employees even. We've deployed our product with a couple of rail operators in Spain and now in the UK with London North East Railway, in Sweden, New Zealand, and other places. What it allows is our customers to offer that seamless end-to-end, door-to-door journey for their users to factor in their own transportation, whether it's airlines or rail, along with all the other local urban services that are available in the different cities where their customers are living or traveling to. We have had ongoing dialogue, although we haven't yet deployed with an airline. This is a mock-up for an airline that explores how a user could discover, route, book, and pay, even if they want to, a combined, unified, seamless journey that's not just airport to airport, but actually door to door with the airports in the middle. And then once the user arrives to their destination, they can still use your app, making it sticky for them as they move around the city. You can embed other tourist information as well inside, and then they can find a way how to get there. And again, it's really important. For us, the user never has to leap out of your app. The user is able to do everything inside your app, including unlocking, booking, and paying for the different mobility services. They don't have to download new apps everywhere. So how do we go to market? We work with these very large demand-driving customers that help us accelerate the development of our mobility marketplace, integrating all these mobility services, combining them with our algorithms. And once we have them, we can then offer this whole marketplace to, as I mentioned earlier, a growing number of other verticals of companies that want to offer this kind of seamless mobility. Insurance companies, again, of course, airlines, energy companies. Many companies are interested in offering mobility, adding in electric charging or other value-added services that make sense for their business. There's several things that make lomob really unique in the market. We've decoupled our architecture and designed it in a way for rapid deployment and rapid scaling, rapid integration of new mobility services as well. One point that'll probably resonate, at least with those of you in the airline industry or related to it, is what lomob is building, the IOM, the Internet of Mobility, is basically like GDS or NDC, but for ground transport. So what we're doing, and this is a project with the European Union that's helping us accelerate this, is creating a mechanism for any vehicle, whether it's part of an existing fleet, a car share or a bike share service, public transit, private vehicles that want to be connected to the Internet of Mobility, can easily, seamlessly be connected. Then they can be discovered, routed, booked, and paid for by any user of any app connected to lomob. You can imagine it's a very big industry. Ground transport, 6 trillion today, headed to 8 trillion. We operate in what's called the mobility as a service market space, which is projected to be something like 100 billion over the next 10 years. And we're going after a big chunk of that market. We license our software and then we generate some transaction revenue. Later, we'll get some data revenue when we're big enough. 3 PhD co-founders, 7 startups amongst our team, lots of deep experience in mobility. Projections shift from revenue from licensing to revenues from transactions and other revenue streams that happen over time as we scale the business. We've raised over $1 million from Techstars and other investors, and we're doing a Series A round we've just started. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boyd. So Dragons, micro-mobility, last mile transportation. What do you think?
Oh, it sounds great. Oh, sorry. Sounds great. Definitely. Yeah, I would say ground transportation is definitely like one area like that has like a lot of importance and then a lot of innovations around it. I think the question here I have is, what is your business model? Like, how do you see you monetizing the platform? Because like pre-book transfer, like you always compete with the on-demand transfers, and there's the pressure from the drivers that they have options to go to different places. How and some of the ticket prices are actually very low. How are you managing your business model?
Yeah, good question. I think difference between airline aggregation and first and last mile mobility is that the margins can be bigger and there's more room for business models on the transaction side. In mobility, we think transactions is probably in urban mobility, transaction revenue is not where our clients will make a lot of extra ancillary revenue. But in our case, it does. We get micro transaction revenue from small purchasing of micro journeys, but our licensing revenue is very important right now. So we're a B2B enterprise, so we license our software to the large organizations who then offer this seamless user experience for their customers. Transaction revenue, getting a piece of a microtransaction revenue isn't that great until you get to significant scale, in which case it can be useful. We do anticipate getting there. But the other thing I'd like to mention is that because we're able to basically aggregate demand from a bunch of large demand driving customers, when we enter into a relationship with a micromobility operator, we can enter into some kind of beneficial pricing models that go beyond the trying to get 5% of a €3 scooter ride. And instead, for example, get them to waive the unlocking fee they normally charge for a scooter. And then we can come up with bundled pricing models that we collaborate with our enterprise customers to offer to their users. And then we share with our enterprise customers some of that extra revenue.
Sounds all very complex. Go ahead, Fergal.
Sorry, Boyd. Look, I love the idea and the concept, right? Being able to book and pay all the way across all the different modes of transport. So I think it's solving a real problem there. You're B2B exclusively. Is there not an opportunity here to bring this B2C as well, and maybe a bigger opportunity?
And adding into that question, Fergal, can you also kind of compare yourself to other kind of multimodal B2C providers like Rome to Rio and others?
Yeah.
We get that question a lot. We made a strategic decision not to go for B2C from the very beginning, and there's a couple of reasons for that. The most important one is that the customer acquisition cost in urban mobility is quite high, and other companies who try to do a business model similar to ours and go B2C are struggling because of that. There's a lot of entrenched competitors that have that app mindshare for urban mobility, like the Ubers and some of the bigger players, and it's hard to get on the user screen. So we prefer to go with our enterprise clients who are already on their screens, who already have millions of users, like rail operators or airlines. So that's one of the reasons. And a similar reason is that we discovered, of course, not surprisingly, our B2B customers are a little concerned about us going B2C, because then we compete directly with their business model if they try to do this with us. So we've decided not to compete with our own customers and instead enable our customers. And what it does allows us to solve that multi-sided market problem that startups have. How do you get supply without demand? How do you get demand without supply? Well, when we work with a rail operator, Renfe, 500 million passenger journeys a year. When we secured Renfe, we got unicorn-sized mobility providers connecting to IML because they wanted access to their user base. So it's a way to accelerate the marketplace and to grow the business without having to spend money on acquiring customers ourselves.
Great. Thank you very much, Boyd.